I need to tell you guys this ghost story. This story was sent into my email, and if you have any ghost stories, paranormal encounters, or scary stories that you want to share, you can send them to the email in my bio. For the last 12 years, I've wondered if something has been following us, following my family. To start, I was raised by my great grandmother. My biological mother abandoned me and my 1-year-old brother in a motel room when I was only 6 months old. My great grandmother took us in and raised us and eventually adopted us when I was 7. Around 6 years old, I started having a series of intense night terrors. When my great grandmother would ask me what had happened, I would always give her the same explanation. There was someone standing at the end of my bed. I would describe it to her in detail. There was a woman in my room. At first, she would be standing in my room looking at me. She would be smiling and waving. Sometimes she would sit on the edge of my bed and hum quietly. I had no idea who she was, and I had no idea why she kept appearing to me. Years later, when I was around 12, I was at my grandparents' house on my dad's side, and we were looking at old photo albums. My cousin and I were laying in the living room, flipping through them, when she opened an album filled with pictures of my grandmother's parents. My eyes froze on one photo. I pointed at the picture and told my cousin I've seen her before. Immediately, she asked me what I meant, and I told her that the woman in the photo was the same woman I had been seeing standing in my bedroom for years. We brought the photo album to my grandfather, and I explained everything. He asked me to describe what the woman was wearing when I saw her, so I did. I described her clothing in as much detail as I could. My grandfather just stared at me for a bit, not saying anything. Apparently, I had described the exact outfit that she had been buried in. That was only the beginning, though. Years later, after my husband and I got together, strange things continued happening wherever we lived. The first time was when I was staying overnight at his house. No one else was home. His mom and stepdad were at work, and his brother was at his girlfriend's house. But all night, I couldn't sleep. His bedroom was right beside the kitchen, and throughout the night, I kept hearing things. Light switches clicking on and off, cabinets opening and closing, quick footsteps. At first, I tried to convince myself his brother had come home, but when we woke up the next morning, I mentioned it to him. He just casually said, "Yeah, that happens sometimes. I just ignore it." About a year later, his family moved into a different house, and I eventually moved in too. For the next 3 years, the same things continued. I would hear voices when nobody was home, doors would open and close by themselves, lights turned on in the middle of the night, and I always remembered something I had been told before. If you think something paranormal is happening, don't acknowledge it. Ignore it. And so that's what I did. Eventually, though, the activity got to be too much, and so I told my husband's mother what was happening. She brought sage from her aunt and helped cleanse the house. And for a while after that, everything stopped. The house had gone quiet until we moved again. After we had our first child, my husband and I moved into an apartment. Our unit was connected to another apartment that was empty at the time. Well, it was supposed to be empty. At night, we would hear knocking coming from the empty apartment. We would smell strange odors that were coming from that home. We would even hear children laughing through the walls. Things would bleed into our apartment as well. Sometimes we would sit in the living room and hear what sounded like a ball bouncing across the floor in another room. Our closet doors would open, the hallway door would sway back and forth when no one was touching it, and there were even times I heard knocking at our front door, only to look outside and see nobody was there. Once again, I told my husband's mother, and once again she helped sage and cleanse the area. And once again, everything stopped, and we became pregnant again. We were outgrowing the apartment and wanted a house, so we moved into one a couple blocks away from my mom. At first, everything was perfect, but eventually, just as it had happened before, it started happening again. The layout of the house was strange. Part of it was raised higher than the rest, which meant that sound carried easily through the home, and countless times, when my husband and I would be in the kitchen while our babies were sleeping, we would hear children laughing coming from our laundry room. Every single time I would make him go check. Every single time, nobody was there. The laughter would only stop the second that he would look. There were also moments when one of us would swear we heard the other calling our name. We would seek the other out and ask, "Did you say something?" The other would be confused because we hadn't. The lights in this house would flicker constantly. We thought maybe there was an electrical issue, especially because we lived near a field, and wondered if mice had damaged the wiring. But when we called an electrician, nothing was wrong. Eventually, I started questioning myself. I was home with 2 toddlers all day while my husband worked, and I wondered if exhaustion was making me imagine things. I even started anxiety medication because I thought maybe it was all in my head. Eventually, we moved. I couldn't handle living there anymore. Now we are in our forever home. We have 3 beautiful children, and somehow it's started again. Doors open on their own. I hear humming and singing when my children are asleep. I hear laughter when nobody is awake. I've heard my kids call for me only to walk into their rooms and find them sleeping. I've heard my husband call my name only for him to tell me he never said anything. The worst part is my daughter has started experiencing things too. She refuses to sleep unless her closet door is closed because she said there is someone inside. She says it has red eyes. She says it just stands there watching her.